everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Glenwood News. So today we have Miss Julie Graham, who is the principal of the lower school at Glenwood. And Miss Graham, we thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And first, I'm going to start off by asking you, how long have you been at Glenwood?
Well, as an employee, I started in 2003. I was hired by Mr. Hayes, Bill Hayes, to be the guidance counselor, but I actually graduated from Glenwood in 2000. So I was a student for a while, and then like a lot of students said, I'm out of here, I'm done, and then God said, no, you're not, come on back. And so I've been here since 2003.
Okay, all right. Now, did you say earlier you graduated at Glenwood?
I did. Okay. I started at Glenwood in 7th grade and then finished out through 12th grade. My older brother had been here and he graduated. So, been at Glenwood for a while.
Let's see. So how many years would that be, counting your
oh goodness,
as a student and as a principal? And
so that would be over 20. I mean, this is my fifth, so 21. 6 years as a student, 6 or 7 as a student, and 14, 15 as an employee. So over half of my life has been spent here at Glenwood.
All right. Well, what's your favorite part of your job here?
Oh, by far the students. I love working with the students. And when I was the guidance counselor in the upper school, I did college applications and admissions and things like that, and scholarships, and that was a lot of fun. So I was a little worried when I went down to the elementary school because there's a big age difference between a 3-year-old preschooler and an 18-year-old senior. But honestly, I wouldn't trade any of them. I absolutely love work. I loved working with the older kids and trying to help figure out their future. But the little kids are just amazing as well. So the students by far are my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, and you were also my principal from the 4th to the 6th grade.
I sure was. That's right.
All right, and what made you choose to return to Glenwood after graduating from college?
Right, I had finished at Huntington College in Montgomery, and I was trying to decide whether to get my master's in counseling psychology or possibly go to law school. And I ended up marrying a lawyer from here. So when I married him, I came back home and pretty much thought that was God's way of telling me I just needed to be here. And I started my Master's of Counseling program at Troy University. And I stopped by one day to just see some teachers and things like that. And I ended up speaking and meeting with Mr. Hayes at the time. And he asked if I was looking for a job. And I told him, well, yes, because I just graduated and just got married and I didn't have one. And asked what I was going to school for. And I told him, and it just so happened that he needed a guidance counselor. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and who was Mr. Hayes again?
He was our headmaster at the time, Bill Hayes.
Okay.
So he had been a headmaster here for a while. He was a headmaster when I was a student. So he knew me, and like I said, he was just looking for a guidance counselor, so it worked out.
All right. Well, what, if you would tell me, what are some changes that you have seen since you were here as a student?
Well, obviously the enrollment. I graduated with about 23, 25 seniors. And I know last year we were looking around 50 or 60. The campus, just the facilities have grown, and they've just upgraded. That's the nicest way I can put it. When you have more students, you can do more things like that. So right. Particularly with Mr. Mitchum coming in, everything's just been stepped up a notch. So while it was a great school when I was a student here, it's become an even better school as an employee. And it's been such an honor to watch that transition. And it's one of the main reasons I have my own children here. So.
All right. Well, what are some things that were, if you would tell me, what were some things that were here at Glenwood that were not here when you were a student here?
Well, of course, the preschool program was here, but it was smaller. We didn't have the 2-year-old program and the infant program. A lot of the sports and extracurricular activities, like we didn't have robotics when I was a student here. We didn't have soccer. We didn't have track. The extracurricular stuff has been huge. At the time, I don't think there was really any standardization of the curriculum, and what we've seen since Mr. Mitchum's been here is a really big concentration and a huge push on making everything college prep across the board, not just if the teacher wants to. So like I said, it was a great school while I was here, and it prepared me for what I'm doing now. I am a product of Glenwood, so it served me well, but everything's just sort of been taken up a notch since and Mr. Mitchell's arrived. So.
And we've come a long ways. We didn't even have soccer or track.
We didn't, and I know sports in the AISA kind of come and go depending on other teams in the association, but I think what I've seen the last few years is the desire to offer more, if that makes sense. I think people always wanted to. When I was a student here, there just wasn't anybody to do it, or there wasn't enough interest. With more students and people willing to help out and do their part, I mean, we're able to just do so much more for students now than we were back when I was enrolled here.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you to tell me about some of the extracurricular extracurricular activities for the lower school students.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 4-H that was started this year. We have the technology fair, and our students did really well in the technology fair, and that includes middle school and upper school, but it's for elementary as well. We've got Pee Wee football. We've got like the Pee Wee cheerleaders. We have the reading competition through the AISA, the spelling bee. We've had like a girls club, a girls scouts kind of thing. We've got a lot of stuff in the elementary. It's a lot of fun too.
Okay. Well, let's see here. You have four children that attend her, right?
I do. I have an 8th grader, a 7th grader, a 6th grader, and a 5th grader.
Okay. Now, as a parent, what do you like best about the school?
I love the family atmosphere first and foremost. And I'm in a different position because I've always been in school with my kids, but even when I'm not here, if I'm out of town, on an accreditation visit, I don't have any worries when I bring my children to the school. I know they're taken care of. I know there are adults there that watch them and love them and care for them, but that will also keep them in line, which as a mama, that's what I want. So I think the family atmosphere is number one, and tied with that would be the Christian aspect. I think that's one of the major reasons my husband and I decided to not only for me to work here, but for our kids to come here. We think that's such an important part of growing a healthy, happy adult, and that starts at the early ages, and it has to be, school-wide as well as what's going on at home with the parents. So the atmosphere, number one, for sure.
All right. And the way that you and Mr. Mitchell have done, I really think, which, not trying to sound biased, but I think we're the best school in the area, really.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, and what is the teacher-to-student ratio?
Right, in the elementary, for the preschool ages, we're licensed by the Department of Human Resources for the state of Alabama, so DHR is what we call them, and they set our class sizes. So for like in a preschool class, you can have 11 students to 1 teacher. Now, as you get into kindergarten, DHR doesn't sanction those classes, so Glenwood decides that. Now, you have to keep in mind that the building I'm in is the original building that was built in 1970, so our classrooms are not huge. They're good size, but they're not huge like newer schools that are being built. So that helps us, and in combination with our commitment to keeping low student-teacher ratios, your average is going to be about 12 or 15 to 1 in the elementary, depending on what grade you're in.
Okay. Well, now what were the standardized test scores like last year?
We did really well. One thing with Glenwood students is we consistently score above state and national averages. A few years ago when Common Core came in public schools, we were concerned because we don't teach Common Core. We teach what Glenwood students need to be successful now and in the future. So when the tests, such as the SAT-10 and the ACT and the PSAT, all that came about, and it was aligning with Common Core, we were concerned that we weren't preparing our students. We were very pleasantly surprised when the test results came back that we continued to outscore state and national averages as well as local schools in the area. So it was just proof to us that what we're doing works, that if you take that traditional approach, you're going to prepare these kids for the next level, and our test scores show that. So. Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. And so we're going to take a break, and next we will be back with Taylor Johnson on the soccer team. And Ms. Graham, again, thanks for joining us. Thank you for having me.
And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching Glenwood News.
Beam with pride. Pride in our neighbors, friends, and family. Where we were taught what really matters. that when you base your business on principles of integrity, humility, and generosity, you give back to the community you serve. Where business relationships is more than money can measure, and that good service both to our customers and through our works will always be remembered. Beam with strength. Strength and flexibility to be big and small. To offer the same technology to feel big, but the customer service to feel small. Where the customer is not one of millions. They're one. The strength to bring our customers expertise and new technology, yet still recognizing our customers as our neighbors, something our size allows us to do. But the big guys will struggle with exactly what sets us apart. Beam with joy, the joy of generosity, a value of what made us who we are since the beginning. When our founder wanted his community to have the same amenities that bigger cities had, so he started our cable company out of his barn. A principle that has kept us grounded in our community-first approach, giving both time and resources so we can all stay connected. Where we learned not only what a community support will do, but what we could do by supporting our community. Something our national competitors could never identify with. The core value that makes us who we are. Pride, strength, joy. That's what we thought too. Beam, bringing East Alabama more. It's in our name.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. So now we are here with Taylor Johnson. Taylor Johnson is a sophomore here at Glenwood, and she's on the girls' soccer team. She was the goalie, and so Taylor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And what is it now, Taylor? Six straight?
Yes, it's 6.
Wow. All right. Now I'm gonna start off by asking you, what did it feel like when the clock hit 0 and you knew that you were a state champion?
Honestly, it felt like so surreal in the moment because, like, at the beginning of the season, no one really thought we would win. Like, even myself, I had doubts. I had doubts in the beginning about how the season would turn out and what would happen in the end. But, like, when the clock hit 0, looking up and the score being what it was, it felt really, really good.
Yep. And that just shows you never know what can happen.
Yeah, yes.
All right. And another thing, let's see, if you would talk about the win over Lee Scott, and did that play out the way that you expected it?
Honestly, in the back of my mind, I knew we would win, but like I still had my doubts because at the beginning of the season, Lee Scott had beaten us 2-1, and then we played Lee Scott again, and we beat them 2-1. So it was kind of like a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, I knew we would win. So yes, I guess it played out like we expected.
All right. And now, are you? I know you play softball. Are you a part of a softball state championship?
I am. Last year, I played and I ran for the varsity softball team, and that was good. And then last year, they won their state championship, and I was able to be a part of that.
Yeah, and what was that? Was that 3 straight?
Yes, it
Okay.
was 3.
Because Coach Purdue told me about y'all's hashtag Fight for 4.
Yes.
He told me it better be on the social media.
Oh yes.
All right. Well, and this softball playoff is coming up, and
It's May 4th and 5th in Montgomery, as it always is. They're gonna be there for Friday and Saturday, fighting for 4, I guess.
all right. Well, good luck to y'all. And was this soccer state championship, was it extremely special because the win was over your biggest rival, Lee Scott. If you would talk about that.
I guess any state championship's really special, but I guess anytime you play Lee Scott, it's just so it feels good to beat him at any time. But like Lee Scott, when you play him, it's just so intense back and forth. Each team is so like into it and so ready to go. So like beating our rival just felt even more special.
All right. Well, now if you would talk about the season, as a whole, which you kind of did earlier, but if you would talk about it as a whole, and besides the state title, what were some of your most memorable moments?
Well, at the beginning of the season, there were a bunch of new players. No one really knew what they were doing. I mean, the players coming back knew what they were doing, but we were learning how to work together as a team. So coming out, losing games back-to-back was very hard. And so we would get in practice and work even harder. And then about halfway through or the start of the season, we won a game. And at that game, our coach, after the game, he was like, we're not going to lose again. And after that game, we kind of picked it up, and we never lost again. And I guess some of the most memorable moments, our first win, we won. That was awesome. And then I guess beating Lee Scott, of course, beating Lee Scott the first time. And then there's so many other good moments that the soccer team had.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. Now, if you would, what was, in the regular season, what was your, besides beating Lee Scott, what would you say, would be the biggest win y'all would have?
Probably the regular season, probably Autauga, because we were really nervous playing Autauga because Autauga had that reputation to be winning, and they were really good. And they're always tough because they're really tough on you. So we beat Autauga 1-0 at home, and so that gave us a better chance in the finals. And then the best final game, or the toughest, was Tuscaloosa, because at the beginning of the season, they had beaten us 2-0. And going into that game, I really didn't know what to expect because I wasn't here the day they played that. And so they were really rough on us, really tough. So that was another really good game.
Right. And let's see, the first, y'all beat Lee Scott in the state championship. The first and second round, who was it?
The first round was Fort Dale. We beat them.
And y'all got to host, didn't y'all?
Yes, we did. It was at home. We beat them 4-0 here. And a bunch of girls got to play, and then that Thursday we played Tuscaloosa in Montgomery. We beat them 1-0, and then the next day we played Lee Scott and we beat them 2-1.
Okay, all right. All right. So if you would kind of tell me about yourself and how long have you been at Glenwood?
I'm a sophomore here, and I'm a varsity cheerleader, a varsity basketball player, and a varsity soccer player. I've been at Glenwood since the 6th grade. I was here in pre-K, but I kind of left, and then God was like, yeah, you need to go back. And then so I ended up back here, and I've been here ever since the 6th grade.
Yeah. Well, you're at a good place. You're at a good place. And what was it? It's cheerleading, soccer?
Cheerleading, soccer, and basketball.
And basketball. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. And this is actually your, first year playing soccer?
Yes, it's my first
And you got, all-tournament team?
I did. It was so exciting at the end of the state tournament just to be so excited that you win and then your name being called for an all-tournament team. It was just amazing.
All right, well, now what is your favorite thing about being a Glenwood student?
Honestly, that's hard to pick between because everything about Glenwood is amazing to me. Being able to come into school and just feel very welcomed by your classmates and by your teachers, and just being in the environment of a family, really having everyone being your friend, and like the Christian atmosphere is one of my favorite things, being able to just openly talk about God. And
that's a big thing there. That's a big thing.
Yes, it's all of it at Glenwood is so awesome.
Okay. And another big thing, that we have chapel and all.
Oh,
like
yes.
most schools, of course, don't get to have it. That's big to us.
Yes.
And all right, so now, with this being your first year, how did you get into soccer, and when did you? Well, you've already said. I was about to ask when did you start playing, but you said this year. How did you get into soccer?
Well, it's pretty funny actually. During basketball season this year, we would be in the locker room, and me and the other soccer players, we would joke around, and we would be like, they would be like, you should play soccer, because I was looking for something to do in the spring, being active and all, and so they're like, you should play, and I would always joke around with them, and then come tryout time for soccer, I ended up actually trying out, just seeing if I would make it, not really knowing what I was doing at all, and then I went out there and I made it, and after that I started working for the field. Really, like for the first 2 weeks, I started in the field, and then one day my coach was just like, "You should play the goalie." And ever since then, I've just been playing goalie.
What do you like to do outside of soccer? Like, what are your hobbies and stuff?
Outside of soccer, really, like I said, I love to play basketball. I love to cheer. I love to hang out with my friends and my family, and just I also love to be here at Glenwood watching other sporting events, supporting my friends. So just having fun, really.
Okay. Now, looking ahead, what kind of team do you think you should have next year?
Well, this year we're only losing 2 seniors. That's Abby Brown and Addie. Abby is a midfielder and Addie is a defensive player, and they're both really big parts of the team. But the people, like the younger kids coming up behind them who would take their places, are really learning and really good. So next year, I feel like they're going to be even more better than they are now. And the people that are staying, the starters that are staying, they're going to be better too. So I feel like we're going to have a strong team.
Yeah, and we're going to have quite a few seniors next year.
Oh, yes.
All right. Now, let's see. Do you know what y'all's record was this year?
I do not.
You don't?
I do not.
All right. Well, now for students considering Glenwood, what makes it special, and why should they come here?
Well, if you're considering Glenwood, I think you should really look into it, because everything about Glenwood is so special. Your environment, especially the academics, is one of my favorite things, because it's tough, but it is something that prepares you for your future, and I'm all about that, being prepared for the future. And the Christian environment, that's another big thing. You just feel so loved coming into Glenwood, and if you're looking into extracurricular activities, you have every option you could possibly imagine to be able to be a part of.
All right. Well, Taylor, we thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And once again, you're watching Glenwood News on CTV Beam Channel 7. I'm Craig Coulter. We'll see you next time.